The question isn't whether your D&D party should fight. Duh, of course they should. The question is, why? We've all had those D&D nights where combat was just a dry slog. We stayed alive, we killed the monsters, maybe it was even fun, but you and your players are still left wondering what it was for. Hey there, adventurers, I'm Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios, where we believe fun builds community. Random encounters may have their place, but they shouldn't be the norm. DM, your combat should have a point. Today, I'm showing you what your combat encounters need to be engaging stories in their own right, and bonus, to impact your larger campaign. And you want to stick around because the last element is the one that will engage your players on the deepest possible level. Let's talk about narration. Generally, narrating combat encounters is considered part of the DM's job, but to make it engaging, to make it feel like a story, you need to do more than just state the mechanically obvious. You attack with your longsword, a 17 hits, you do 10 points of damage. Help your players engage with what's happening by painting a picture for them, just like you would do when they encounter a new incredible location for the first time. You lash out with your longsword, landing a solid blow. Your opponent's armor crumples under the force and you hear an audible crack as one of his ribs breaks. This can be hard to do at first, but you're a DM. You can do it. It might take practice. Try this. Set aside some time to sit down and write out a few bits of engaging narration for yourself before game night. Think about your characters' classes, the weapons they wield, their personalities, and write something appropriate for a good, solid hit. If you have an orc war cleric who lands a killing blow with his morning star, you could say, raising your morning star over your head, you bring it crashing down on the enemy's helmet, crushing it and caving in his skull beneath it. He collapses to the ground, dead. Of course, only be as graphic as you and your table are comfortable with. Along those same lines, introduce role-playing opportunities into combat encounters. This can be as simple as giving your players the opportunity to describe in detail how they perform some acrobatic feat or finish off an enemy. You can also introduce dialogue. The party's fighting an ogre, and as he swings his club, he growls, "I'm gonna rip out your spine to decorate my cave." Hey man, he wants his home to have a personal touch, okay? You give your barbarian an opportunity to respond. She rages, "Get in line." When you give your players opportunities like this, they'll feel more connected to the events. They'll be able to put their own unique spin on the story even in combat. And who knows, they might surprise even you. If your players have ever surprised you, go ahead and hit that like button. An imaginative new setting is one of the best ways to surprise and engage your players. Check out the Wandering Tavern from today's sponsor, Homie and the Dude, a sprawling 180 plus page system agnostic Studio Ghibli inspired floating city. You get optional D&D 5e stats, huge battle maps, loads of unique NPCs, cool magic items, and twisted spirits stalking the halls. With plot hooks that lead to dark forgotten secrets, black market empires, and more, there are endless tales to tell in the Wandering Tavern. Hit the link in the description and use code SHORTREST to get 20% off your order. Introduce obstacles and objectives besides just killing the monsters. This provides an extra layer of complication that raises the stakes of the encounter and automatically makes your players feel more engaged in it. I was running a session of the D&D adventure Phandelver and Below the Shattered Obelisk recently, and my players found themselves facing down a group of psionic goblins. I love those guys. And those goblins were guarding a drow mage who was performing some Netherese ritual that was opening a rift to the far realm. The players had to solve a puzzle to stop the ritual before it was completed while fighting the goblins, and oh yeah, the ground was cracking open and giant tentacles were crawling out and trying to snatch the players and the goblins into the rift. Introduce a ticking clock that hangs over the encounter. In my case, it was the ritual, but it could be anything from a collapsing dungeon to a flooding chamber. Put in a complication or an obstacle to their success, like those tentacles that kept trying to grab them, or entangling vines, or a trap. An obstacle could even be a moral dilemma for the players. Do they chase the assassins or save the trapped hostages? And having multiple objectives works really well too. In the case of my Netherese ritual, the player's actual goal coming into the place was to capture or kill the mage, but he was protected, making it difficult, even impossible, to kill him before he could open the rift. If he opened the rift, they'd be in even worse shape. The reason I added this encounter was because I felt like most of this part of the adventure had little to no connection to the rest of the story. So I created this to make that kind of connection, which leads me to the next element. Adventurers, I'd love to hear your advice too. Drop some knowledge in the comments. When designing your encounters, look at the big picture. What genre is your adventure or campaign? Classic fantasy, mystery, horror, political intrigue, a heist? At the highest level, this should inform how your encounters are designed. It doesn't mean you can't include an espionage side quest in a high fantasy campaign. It just means you need to be intentional about how each encounter connects to the overall genre and themes of your campaign. Most of your encounters should lean into that core genre to keep things consistent. For example, if your campaign is one of political espionage, you might have a scene in which your PCs are tailing a suspected spy through the busy streets of Neverwinter. The spy appears to attempt to lose them down an alley. Your players follow only to find themselves ambushed by a band of assassins. Think about the plot of your campaign. It's possible to spend too much effort on this part. You don't want to railroad your players to a determined destination at the expense of their agency. But you should ask yourself, is this a good time for a side quest or a more random encounter? Or does this encounter need to focus more on the overarching story? Let's look at our political intrigue example again. Maybe the person your party was following didn't work for the big bad as they had suspected. They turn a corner following him into a blind alley to find him dead at the feet of those 4 assassins who do, in fact, work for the big bad. And now they have to silence your party too. You also want to take a good look at your PC's backgrounds, motivations, personal connections, and backstories. Is there something there that you can somehow introduce into this combat encounter? Did your rogue fall in love with a beautiful half-elf assassin who left him for dead, changing his life forever? Your party turns into a blind alley to discover their quarry dead at the feet of 4 masked assassins. They attack immediately. As the battle progresses, your rogue finds himself facing down the chief assassin. He rips the mask away, revealing the face of Genwyn, the lover who abandoned him 10 years ago in a pool of his own blood. Now he not only has to deal with her reappearance, but also the fact that she's working for the enemy. And that leads me to the next tip for making your encounters matter. When the time is right, introduce story developments into your encounters. Growing up, I was a huge Star Wars nerd. What prequels? And there are no sequels either. There are 3 Star Wars movies. Anyway, where was I? In the second act, during the darkest moment of the climactic battle between good and evil, we get the biggest, most shocking story reveal in the history of cinema. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No, I am your father.
Still gives me chills. A big plot reveal can get your players more engaged with the encounter and your campaign in the same way that connecting your PC's stories to it can. And if you do both at the same time, wow. I'd save that for a really big moment though. Back to our political intrigue scenario. Your rogue, in shock, is struck hard by his former lover, but the party continues to struggle. Suddenly, a hooded figure appears in the shadows of the alley. A burst of fire erupts from his hand, striking your paladin square in the chest. The monk moves in for a strike. He misses, but as the mysterious figure dodges the blow, his hood falls back, revealing him to be Lord Remich, the very man who hired your party. Adventurers, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did and you want more of this kind of content, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And don't forget to drop a comment if you have some advice to share or if one of these really stood out to you. And please consider supporting this channel by joining the Adventurers Guild at patreon.com/shortreststudios or by hitting the join button under this video. One of the best ways to make fights more fun in D&D is to stop making them fair. Check out this video to find out how, and I'll see you next time on Short Rest Studios. To make it engaging, to make it feel